If you have your Bibles, meet me in Exodus. Exodus, the third chapter. Exodus, the third chapter. Help me celebrate this praise team, this band. Help me celebrate the vessels. Exodus, the third chapter, beginning at the 7th verse. Exodus 3, verse number 7, as we continue in our series, Behind the Music, taking popular songs of worship and giving the biblical clarity behind the music. Exodus, the third chapter, beginning at the 7th verse, it reads, "The Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I've heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I've come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, the home of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. And now the cry of Israel has reached me, and I have seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. So now go. I'm sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt." But Moses said to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" And God said, "I will be with you. I will be with you. And this will be the sign that it is I who have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain." Moses said to God, "Suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, 'The God of your fathers has sent me to you,' and they ask me, 'What is his name?' Then what shall I tell them?" God said to Moses, "I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites: 'I am has sent me to you.'" God also said to Moses, "Say to the Israelites, 'The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, the name you shall call me from generation to generation." Right before you take your seats, if you would, look at the person sitting next to you and tell them to call on the name of Jehovah. You may be seated. Let me begin by posing a question to see if there are any witnesses. The length of this message may be determined by whether it's needed or not. So let's see. Is there anybody who's ever had a difficult assignment? I'm not speaking about your academics, but in this journey we call life. Has anyone ever had a difficult assignment or hit a difficult place in life? Let me make it more clear. In your journeying with God, has anyone out there ever been in what felt like an impossible situation? All right. Let me try this side. Is there anybody who's ever had a difficult assignment? And while we simplify this journey with God and create this reality, particularly in popular circles, Christian circles, that if you are walking with God, then things go smoothly. And you have no struggles, or when you do have struggles, it's because of error on your part. But here we find Moses in a predicament where in his journeying with God, he is led through difficult terrain. I love this tension. If you open your eyes to it, the Bible makes it clear. Almost every book of the Bible, you can see this tension of walking with God, but experiencing blessing, experiencing benefit, but also being continually thrown into situations that are above our pay grade, complex, and trying. David, as he's trying to give a sense of who God is and what God is like, he gives a conception. He really cannot contain God with words because God is transcendent. God cannot easily be contained. God is vast, a reality, more vast a reality than anything you've ever familiarized yourself with. But David, to the best of his ability, attempts to, with the words he has in the context that he's in, he attempts to give us a sense of what God's like. And he was a good shepherd that literally risked life and limb to protect his sheep. And with that said, as David risked life and limb to protect his sheep, he began to think about God and how significant God was. And as he thought about how significant God was, he used terms that he understood and other people around him understood. He said, "The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restores my soul." But even in this great declaration about the goodness of God, he doesn't show a path or pathway that goes from one glory to another. He's realistic about what this journey is like. And while walking with God in this God journey, we are often forced to go through what David describes as the valley of the shadow of death. It's this tension between both realities, and if you open your eyes to it, you'll see it. And most of us hopscotch right over this to get to what happened with Moses and how he literally expanded his call and lived out his God-given vision. We often skip right to the acts of God, the plagues that hit Egypt, and we miss the driving force of these encounters. And it's what took place before Moses ever stepped foot again on Egyptian soil. Moses is in over his head. Can't you see it? Yeah. He is in over his head and challenged, rather commanded to go into something extremely difficult, something that he was not qualified for, absent of the glory of God. He was commanded to, number one, you ready for this? Because y'all made the story real cute. Like he took off his shoes and God spoke to him through a burning bush, giving him all the faith that he needed until he got into Egypt, as if it was automatic and there was no wrestling, there was no toiling. But can't you see the difficult thing that God causes Moses to walk into as he's journeying with God? God says something that sounds simple to us now that we look hundreds of years or thousands of years back. But imagine this to Moses. He said, "I want you to go as my mouthpiece. I want you to go to the ruler of Egypt. I want you to tell him that God says, 'Let my people go.' And then I want you to believe that the Israelites will believe you and actually leave when you say it's time to go. All right, I understand this doesn't seem problematic. Above his head, above his pay grade, you don't see the difficulty in this. Number one is difficult because, number one, it's difficult because to function in this area, it is calling Moses, follow me, to function in the area of his insecurity. If you remember Moses, when God said you to go, though he gave him a consolation prize in his brother and demands over time of revealing himself to him that he be the mouthpiece of God and have confidence in his area of insecurity, this is the beginning of his journey. And Moses, his voice, we don't know if it was his voice. We don't know if he had a stammering tongue. We don't know if he had a stutter. We don't know if he was simply plagued in his speech. But the reality is, Moses has an issue of insecurity. He can't speak that well. Yet God says, watch the difficulty number one, I want you to go and minister to my people, and I'm going to start with the area of your insecurity. Whenever God calls you above or beyond your pay grade, it is often because he wants to reveal a side of himself that you have not yet known. And many of us don't get to know the sides of God or the multiple sides of God because we don't want to go beyond our comfort zone. But Moses, as he comes before God, he's a little timid at first, but God is calling him to a difficult situation. Number one, it's difficult because he has to come to grips with his greatest insecurity, and that is a problem with his speech. Doesn't God sometimes, it would be real, frustrate you when he calls you to the very thing that you're most insecure about and declares, I'm going to get glory out of that as you submit it to me. For some of you, it is brokenness. For some of you, it is a sordid or troubled past. For others, it is an inability. You are the least likely in your family, but when God calls you to do something, it's often outside of your comfort zone. Moses, number one, is called to something that is the source of his insecurity. But number two, he is in a difficult predicament, impossible situation, because him going to ask that they let Egypt's labor system go free, best case scenario, he gets laughed out of the place. Worst case scenario, because he's going to speak with a king, Pharaoh. And for those who have done your homework, you know in Egypt, Pharaoh was considered amongst Egyptians not only as a ruler or as a king, but Pharaoh was considered a deity. So he's going before a king that most people believed was a deity, declaring that you're doing wrong and you're to let God's people go. Now, there were people that looked at the king biblically and didn't bow their heads, who were put to death. Yet Moses, God calls Moses to stand toe-to-toe with Pharaoh to declare, you let my people go. That's part two, which makes this problematic and impossible. Point number three, Moses, after 40 years of being in the wilderness, follow me, is going back into the place that he fled after murdering an Egyptian. Moses has been a fugitive, on the run. They stopped looking for him. And God, when it's time to answer his call, sends him back into the place where he is dismissed as a fugitive, or where he departs as a fugitive. So they got his picture up on the FBI's most wanted, and at the front door of Walmart. And God says, this is the very place I'm calling you to go back to stand toe to toe with the Egyptians and to let them know it's time to release my people. But here's what is more problematic about this scenario. Because if you remember, when Moses sprung into action, when he saw the Egyptian captor abusing his Israelite brothers, he jumped into action, killed the man, and then went to the Israelites to get his props. It's 90s, throw behind the music so I can use that, right? To get his props, and they hit him with a Kendrick. They looked at him and say, y'all not like us. You are ethnically a Jew, but you've been living up here on the high horse in Pharaoh's house with all the accoutrements of success. We appreciate you getting him off our back, but you too bougie for us. So Moses is stuck in between these two realities. On one hand, he's a fugitive, not knowing what's going to take place when he gets back from the Egyptians. But on the other hand, God calls him, God, I wish I had time to work this, to liberate a people who don't even identify with him. If I had time to talk about this, I would work it till there was no more meat left on this bone. But I got to get you out of here before this traffic starts for the Grand Prix. Super Saints, thank you for being here and paying $20 for parking once a year. I appreciate you being here. And those watching, I understand, by streaming. But please understand, he goes back into Egypt. He's not accepted as a fugitive from the Egyptians. Doesn't know if he's going to be accepted by the Israelites, and he is in the uncomfortable position of any change maker. Anybody know what it is to not fit squarely into any camp? Because often when God calls you to something, you don't fit squarely into any camp. Because when God comes, he doesn't come to take sides, as y'all heard before. God comes to take over. He doesn't come to pick a side, but God's ways are transcendent, and you have to get on his program. So Moses has the uncomfortable position of being both a fugitive and an outcast, and that is the very place God calls him to. He is thrown in an impossible situation. He's forced to face at this juncture in his journeying with God what is beyond him and what is impossible. I want to slow this down because most of y'all want to skip to him just being sent and going and performing miraculous things from God. But I want to humanize this because all of us know what it is to journey with God and to be out above our head, to be drowning in our circumstance, to not be able to see our way, to not know where our next is coming, to be shamed for our mistakes and for our failures. Yet God says, I've still called you to touch some people. Many of us know what it is to be drowning in lack. There are more bills at the end of the month than there is resources. And you look up, throw your hands up and say, Lord, this is impossible. Some people in this place know what it is to have an impossible diagnosis from your doctor who looks and says it ain't good and they can't figure out what to do with you. Moses understood at this moment what it is in his journeying with God to be in an impossible situation. What fascinates me is to all of this that Moses is facing, to everything that Moses is facing at this moment, he makes what appears to be an unusual request. If it were me, and God spoke from a burning bush, enough of a miracle to let me know that I'm being sent by someone or something that is supernatural, because the Bible declares that the bush burned. It was ablaze, but the branches of the bush were not consumed. It was aflame, but the bush it remained intact, and he heard an audible voice of the living God from this bush. That's a good start. Some of us began this faith journey after a good message, but it wasn't no burning bush. Yet, with everything that God calls Moses to do, Moses is better than me. Because I don't know that I could have done that. I would have needed, if you're supernatural and you're talking out of nowhere and making bushes burn without being consumed, here's what my request is. I'm going to go back to this place where on one hand I'm a fugitive and on the other hand I'm an outcast and make this outlandish request, but here's what I need. I need you to make me like that burning bush. I'm going to walk in there looking like an X-Man. I want to be on fire but not burned. So that when I stand in front of Pharaoh and say, let my people, God says, let my people go, he'll believe me. That's what I ask. Moses, though, doesn't ask that before he goes with this impossible situation that he's thrown into. I would have asked, if not that, I would have said, God, would you please allow lightning bolts to come down from heaven and to hit the Egyptians that will fight me before I get there? Do it though. I would have coordinated it. Y'all had a whole thing you got to coordinate. You got to coordinate. I would have looked to heaven. I said, Lord, don't send the lightning bolts until I make the request, put my arms out like this and lift my eyes to the sky. Then they will know that you sent me. But Moses, he doesn't do that. Moses, he makes an unusual request. And here is Moses' request. He doesn't say send lightning bolts down he doesn't ask to overcome and destroy his oppressor. He instead asks a question concerning, here it is, praise team, a name. Huh? I would have said, let chariots of fire go ahead of me and wipe out all my enemies, so when I get there, all I have to say is, y'all, it's time to go. But Moses doesn't ask any of that. With this impossible request in task, with all that he's facing, he asks a question. To us, this seems like an unusual question. He said, I don't need lightning bolts. I don't need to be burning with fire. He said, here's my question. He says, who shall I say sent me? I know y'all real deep. For me, it would have taken more than that with all that he was going through and all that he was facing. He said, I bet we're good. Here's what I need. I need to just simply, this is all I need before I go. I'm going. But who do you want me to tell them sent me? There is a line that's popularized in Romeo and Juliet. There is where there was set tripping, who banging. There was between these young people fall in love, and the passion burns between them, and their families were at odds. Y'all remember this, right? There were the Montagues and the Capulets. They were at war with one another. They couldn't stand one another. They were arch enemies, the Montagues and the Capulets. And let me contemporize this. It was the Montagues and the Capulets. And Juliet, as Romeo is wrestling, he's saying, I feel the love you feel. But this is not practical. Because our families don't get along. Are you not aware of their last names? Yeah, all right, Romeo puts it this way. He says, my whole family bangs Crip. And y'all don't say cool, you say boo. Stuff y'all and you sees, your whole family bicking back being boo. He said, we're Crips, y'all Bloods, While we love each other, this ain't gonna work. All right, too hood. Let me see if I can. Your family runs the GOP. My family, listen, you cut us, we're Democrat. This ain't gonna work. And to that, Juliet responds, what is in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would still smell as sweet. Beautiful statement. Basically, what she's saying is, what we have going on, we don't have to worry about all that. Montagues, Capulets, listen, you don't have to worry about a name. A rose, if you called it something else, would still have all the characteristics of a rose. We don't have to worry about names. All we have to do is worry about essence. She said rose by any other name would be called a rose. We don't have to be concerned with names. God would still be God, no matter what we called him, y'all. But this passage would suggest that there is something to a name. All right, let's go home. This passage seems to suggest that there's not only something to a name, there is something to the name. He says, yeah. Because Moses doesn't say, kill my enemies, light me a fire, cause lightning bolts to strike them. He says, who shall I say sent me? And God does not say, don't worry about all that. He does not say, it doesn't matter. The biblical significance of a name and being sent was very important. To be sent, listen to me, in a name, or to be sent by a name was extremely significant. Please understand. That is why God actually answers his question. He does not give him the fullness of all that he's asking, but he gives him the big picture. God answers his question because in that day and age, he understood that a name was significant. Names are still significant. And if we understood the significance, particularly in the spiritual realm of names, we would ask the same thing Moses asked. Most of us are praying that our enemies are destroyed, or praying that critics are silenced, or praying that our haters be wiped off the face of the earth. But if we knew what Moses knew, we would ask about a name. What name? What name? What is the significance of a name? I'm glad you asked me. Number one, if you're taking notes, the first principle of a name that is important and it's significant to understand why Moses asked, because a name speaks to, in that day and age, and quite honestly, even in this day and age, to authority. Say authority. So he said, when I go here, here's the question. On whose authority am I going to do what I'm fitting to go do? Now, I don't have a problem doing it, but number one, I want to know your name. And I want to know who I should tell them sent me. Because in that day and age, if you were sent by a ruler, if you were sent by a king, or you were sent by a divine deity, you would show up and let them know who you represent. You would show up, and as you showed up and gave the name, follow me, it carried the weight of the authority of the one that sent you with the message. This is the importance of making sure you're called to do what you're called to do and not just ambition. Be ambitious, because there are a lot of people that just went. But when you just go, you have everything you brought. You have your talents, you have your abilities, you have your resource, you have your competencies, you have your connection, because you just went. But on the contrary, when you don't just go, but are sent by someone, part of what it means to be in the authority or sent by someone, it implies that as you go, you're not just doing your own thing and you're not just carrying your own word, but you are a delivery person for someone that is more prominent than yourself. And when you become the delivery person for someone who is more prominent than yourself, you gain all of the resources of that person for what you need. That's why you always got to check your motive to make sure that ambition didn't take you there. Because if just your ambition took you there, your ambition is going to have to keep you there. I don't care what your favorite social media guru says. But on the contrary, if God sent you there, then it's on God not only to send you there, it's on God to back you up when you get there. And it's on God to resource you once you're out there. Look at your neighbor and ask them, were you sent or did you just went? I know it's bad English, but it's a good point. Did you just go or did you go in authority? He said, I need to tell them when I get there who it is that sent me, because they know me. And if I stand in Moses' strength, all they see is fugitive. If I stand in Moses' strength, all they see is outcast. If I stand in Moses' strength, all they see is a stutterer. But if I know, I just need to talk to people that know. If I know that you sent me on divine authority, when I get there, I can announce to them who's backing me up. Look at somebody. If you're in an impossible situation, but know that God is for you, look at them with all the confidence you have in you. Say, I was sent to do this, and no demon in hell is going to stop me, because I was. Give people a high five. Tell them I got authority. I have authority. I have authority. I was sent to do this. Sent to do it. 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 When I was sent, heaven backs me. He said, I was sent. Yeah, okay, Dad, you can get that. Have you ever seen, how many of y'all have kids? You have kids? You have kids? Sometimes, you hear commotion downstairs, and one kid will snitch on the other kid. And sometimes a kid go downstairs and they'll see a brother or sister doing something that's out of bounds they know is not proper. Have you ever seen, sometimes a sibling will go catch another sibling doing something that mom and dad don't like jumping on the couch with their shoes. They get that that anointing that comes over them to break the rules. They start breaking rules like what's the name? Like the reenactment. I don't know if it really did in real life, if it's a real story, or if it was just an embellishment from Brother Dave Chappelle. But like Rick James, you see him down there jumping on the couch, and the child sometimes comes down and says, "Hey, get down off that couch." And the one standing on the couch will look at them like, "Negro, please. Negro, Anglo, Latino, please." They stand and continue to do it. Because the sibling said, "Hey, get down off the couch." Now they know they're not supposed to be on the couch. They know they're breaking the rules. But when the sibling says it, there's no movement. Now, you have a sibling who talks momentarily to a parent who is tied up, and the parent tells the sibling to go down and tell your brother to get down off that couch. They come back and they don't start with their own ideas. It's the same communication, it's the same instruction, but they said, "Mama said." Daddy said. And sometimes when it gets good to them, they'll add all kind of stuff. Mama and daddy. Mama said, get your raggedy, big head, slewfoot self off that couch now. And they jump right off. It was the same correspondence, the same communication, but one came in authority because they didn't come down there in their own strength. They were sent by someone with authority. And when they say move and nothing happens, it may take a while, but the one with authority comes down to put stuff in order. Look at your neighbor. Tell him you got to come in authority. Yeah, there's something to a name. There's something to a name. There's strength in a name. There is healing in the name. There is deliverance in a name. And sometimes I'm in an impossible situation and I need some things to turn around. And when I show up, I don't say in the name of Wayne, but when I pray my prayer, I say in the name. In the name of Jesus. In other words, I'm standing in the authority of the arisen Savior. I'm not standing in my goodness. I'm not standing in my power. I'm one sent to carry out his business. I'm standing in his authority. That's why Moses says, when they ask, he doesn't ask for his enemies to be annihilated. He said, who should I say? Send me. Because on one hand, being sent or having the name gives you authority to act on behalf of the one that sent you. But it not only gives you authority, point number two, it gives you identity. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm about to listen, forgive me if I lose it and shout for what God is speaking myself. Listen, y'all can vibe however you choose to. I may lose it myself, so I don't want you to think it's strange. Apologize to your neighbor if they're visiting for the first time. I may lose it myself because he said, what is in a name? A name not only speaks of authority, but a name speaks of identity. A name does not only let people know who sent you so that you have authority to act on their behalf, but a name also lets people know who you're associated with. Because in the event you thought you were going to trip on me, please understand that to touch me is to touch heaven. I want to look at your neighbor and say, handle me carefully. Handle me carefully. Not when I'm acting a fool and doing my own thing, but when I'm on official business, when I'm deputized, when I am sent by heaven, when I'm on divine assignment, you better watch how you're acting with me, because to touch me may cause a global war. Please understand, I'm not just coming in my name, but when I step foot into enemy's territory, if you touch me, please know that heaven's coming. They may not come right away, but know that I'm attached to something. He said, whose name? Because name evokes. Yeah, name evokes identity. Look at your neighbor and tell you belong to something. You belong to something. That's why when Jesus was baptized, the first thing the Father said, this my son, in whom I'm well pleased. Well, hey, watch it. He's identified with me. To mess with him is to mess with me. He's on official business. He's on an official assignment. And please understand, the host of heaven is backing what he's doing as he's about his Father's business. Tell somebody, there's something to a name. He says, a name, we got to go. A name shows you, it gives you authority. A name shows you who you're attached to, identity. But in this context here, also in Egyptian circles, in Egypt, what is significant is they were not a monotheistic place. They were polytheistic, which means they had multiple gods. And they had gods for almost any and everything. Sun, daytime, nighttime, death, afterlife. They had gods for almost anything. I told you even they viewed Pharaoh as a deity, not simply a man, because there were a host of gods. And each of these gods, I feel this, had what was called a sphere or realm of power. Each of these gods had what is called a domain. That is why when we sing behind the music, all dominion belongs to the Lord. What it's saying is dominion is from the root word domain. In other words, domain is a sphere of influence. And so to them, as he's going back into Egypt, declaring, y'all, it's time to go, and standing toe to toe with Pharaoh, they would often want to know, what authority are you acting on? Because each of our gods has a domain. And God said, listen, I don't have time to explain all that because I don't fit neatly into their system. I am greater than their entire system. I do not fit into a domain, but all dominion. Yeah. So now when we sing it, you know, when we say all dominion belongs to the Lord, you understand that there's no darkness, there is no power, that there is no witchcraft, that there is no root worker, that there is no realm of little power that is greater than all power. Y'all forgive me, let them do that. Woo! I'm praising myself because sometimes it can feel like the little powers have the last say. But he said, who should I say sent me? He said, tell them I am that I am. In other words, I don't fit into any one dominion. I have dominion over it all. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Earth. Tell somebody something, the earth, the Lord, the earth, the Lord, the earth, the Lord, the earth. I don't fit. Yeah. They're looking for a dominion. Tell them I got them all. They're looking for power. Tell them I've got it all. They're looking for which key I have to open up which door. Tell them I have all the keys. I got the keys, the keys, the keys. He said, I got them all. Forgive me. He says, tell them that I am. That I am. Woo! I sit you. In other words, I don't have time in this short period of time to give you everything I am for where you're going, to make it concise enough to tell Pharaoh and the Israelites that it's time to go, because I am too vast and I'm too powerful and I am too great and I'm too large and I'm too glorious and I'm too transcendent to fit everything that you need into a definition. That's why there are certain things that just do not fit into definitions, but there are things that have to be fit into not definitions but manifestations. I wish I had time to talk about it. Not definition, he says, but manifestation. In other words, it's like a time release capsule. You know what a time release capsule is, don't you? You take the whole drop of medicine, and they created this technology. It's called time release technology. And what it does is it releases incremental doses of the medication that you need, not at one moment, but along the day as you're working throughout the day, so that you have everything you need to keep yourself healthy for every task that you have before you. You take the whole thing, you got the whole thing, but it is released in incremental doses that your body can metabolize. Because if you got all the medicine at one time, what was meant to heal you could actually kill you because it is too much for you. Somebody's walking with me. He says, Moses, I understand what you're trying to ask, but I can't tell you about everything that I am. in between the time that you're standing here and the time that you need to go to Pharaoh, because you ain't got that much time to get everything I am between here and there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you all of myself in one dose. But I'm not going to reveal or release everything you need about me in one moment, because what is meant to drive you forward would overwhelm you and cause you to fall dead, because my glory cannot be contained that easily. But don't trip, I'm going to be with you. Like that time release capsule on the inside, I'm going to give you everything you need from me. But as you progress forward, I'm going to reveal who I am when your back is up against the wall and when you're in circumstances that you cannot seem to work yourself out of. If I tried to give it to you all at once, it would shortcut the ultimate destiny I have for you, and it would not deepen your understanding of me. How many people in this place came to know God not just in good times when everything was working out, but how many were deepened by God when your back was up against the wall and you felt like it was over and you had nothing left and it seemed like there was more against you than there was for you? But just before your funeral, God stepped in supernaturally and caused all things to work together for the good of them who love him, out of the called according to your purpose. And when you emerged from that place, you did not just emerge with a testimony, but you emerged with a new revelation about who God is. He said, Moses, for now, just tell him I am that I am sent you. But when I provide for you and you didn't know how it was coming, you'll know me as Jehovah Jireh. When I heal you and you didn't know there was no natural remedies that heal you, you'll know me as Jehovah Rapha. And when I fight your battles and you know you couldn't win them yourself, your back was up against the wall, but I caused you to come out victorious, you know me as Jehovah Nisi. And when you're stressed on every hand and you cannot sleep and there's no one there to comfort you and there's no praise team and there's no band and the lights are all off and the Bible studies are all over and you're crying in your room by yourself in the midnight hour, and you lift up your voice and say, Jehovah, and I come in and comfort you with a comfort you couldn't have provided for yourself, and I bring to you a presence that wasn't there before you called on me, and you come to know me as Jehovah Shalom, the God that gives me peace. Then you'll know. Then you'll know me. We got to go. But there is something unusual in the revelation of Jehovah. Say Jehovah. Yeah. Because before this period, there were all sorts of things that were ascribed to the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, but there's something to Jehovah. I saw something, and thank you all for this series. I saw something behind the music I've never seen before. Because the Bible talks about God being a father and God being a deliverer and God being a sustainer and God, the glorious God, the magnificent God, the shepherd God. There's so much the Bible speaks about as it relates to the splendor and the glory of God and his self-sustaining power, his sovereignty, his transcendence. The Bible has so many names for God, but there's something different with the Jehovah compounds that I've never seen before. Because all of the other names of God reveal something of the attributes of God. But when we get to the Jehovah compounds, there's something different. Jehovah is especially interesting in that the names in the Jehovah compound are tied to often a response to a need or a deficit. There is all the other names, El, Gibor, Kana, the Most High, Elion, the Holy One of Israel, the Rock, the King, all those, the Judge of the earth, speak to something of the nature of God, but something different happens with the Jehovahs. It is as if God gives a response to Moses about who he is in the form of a time release capsule. He says, Moses, I can't tell you everything that I am in this moment because some things are not revealed through definition, they are revealed through manifestation. And the longer you walk with me, and the longer you talk with me, and the more that you stay with me in trials and hardships and in difficulty and in lack and in loneliness and in brokenness and in pain and in sorrow and in defeat, the longer you walk with me, he said, what you will begin to see, like that time release capsule, is me show up in unusual ways. But all the Jehovah names of God are preceded by a difficult deficit or overwhelming circumstance that his people go through. So he deepens it from here forward. Before this, people spoke of the attributes of God. After he says to Moses, I'm going to reveal myself to you over time, he begins to form names that make sense based on how he was there for his people and based on how he brought his people out. But here is the reality. The greatest revelation of the names of God come in your most difficult and dark season. Somebody came into this place and you felt like it was over and you were done and you said, I have nothing left. And God says, you're getting ready to get another dimension of me. You're getting ready to have a new definition. You're getting ready to have clarity concerning who I am. You've known me as a provider, but now you're getting ready to see me as a deliverer. You've known me as a healer, but now you're getting ready to see me as a defender, because the Jehovah compounds often follow hardship in the life of his people. And when he shows up and meets a need, it gives another perspective of who he is. And there's some people in this place who have walked in over your head. And the invitation is to call on the God, to call on the great God Jehovah, who has made a way, who will reveal another side of himself. That's what the old folks used to say. The elders used to just say, just keep walking with him, baby. Because in your walking with him, you see sides of him that you would not have seen had you not gone through the trial. That's why even David said it was good for me that I was afflicted. I saw another side of God in my darkest season and in my darkest hour as I called on the name of the Lord. So sometimes when you see me, as life brings ups and life brings downs, you see me in songs, and some of you are here, and it's the rhythm, it's the band that is the allure for you. The rhythmic nature of what's happening. For some of you, you're inspired by the contagious joy of the praise team. There are others who just, I've heard it said, I've heard people in here that say, I just like to be in there. Sometimes they don't know how to explain it, just to catch the vibes. Because the Spirit of the Lord is here. But sometimes you'll see me. You'll see me. And they're real good. They're professionals. But you'll see me sometimes crying or my hands lifted or me on my face. And it doesn't matter what the pitch is or if every note is executed perfectly. Sometimes you'll see me on my knees with my hands up, my towel covering the tears that are falling from my eyes. And for some of you, it may feel like a disconnect. Like, is he hearing the same things we're hearing? Is he responding to the same things we're responding to? Because we're all hearing there are various levels and there are various things. There's some that have a zeal for God, but you don't have the knowledge to accompany the zeal. And there's some that have a knowledge and they ain't got no zeal. And you'll see me there. You'll see me crying out before the Lord. You'll see hands lifted. You'll see tears fall. You'll see hands clapping. Sometimes if nobody's moved, you'll see me jumping and spinning and dancing like David. And what you don't know is I'm not crazy. I'm not just trying to get the party started. I'm not just trying to cause the passion I have to spill out into the congregation. But when you see me like this, it's because I know something. I know something. When I hear the words, Jehovah, we praise you. I can't hear it without also it bringing to mind all of the names I've come to know in my darkest hours. And even when it's good times, I'm filled with gratitude thinking about the dark seasons where he showed up and was my light in the 6 seasons. And he showed up and he was my healer in the broken seasons. And he showed up and was my provider in the lonely season. And he showed up as my comfort in the anxiety-filled seasons. And he showed up as the peace that passes understanding. I can't hear the name Jehovah without feeling or remembering a Jehovah compound. And I can't hear anybody sing the name Jehovah. I can't watch anybody sing from me. I can't watch anybody praise from me because you don't know what he's brought me through. You don't know how he gave me another chance. You don't know the doors he's opened up. You don't know when I was down to my last and I had nothing left but God. But Jehovah shall supply every one of my needs according to his glorious riches. You don't know my Jehovah compound. And this is why we labor for Christ to be formed in you. This is why every time we open these doors, there's Bible stories. And to people who don't think it matters, when you know what you're singing and you know what you believe and you're reminded of calling on his name, is not just any other name, but there's an authority attached to his name. There is identity attached to his name. And demons tremble at his name. All powers are overcome by his name. Healing comes with his name. Deliverance comes with his name. Victory comes with his name. Peace comes with his name. Power comes with his name. Salvation comes with his name. I dare somebody to lift up your voice and shout Jehovah, Jehovah Nisi, Jehovah, Jehovah Rapha, Jehovah, Jehovah Shammah, Jehovah, Jehovah Sitkanu, Jehovah. I dare somebody to lift up the name of the Lord. Call on your God, because when you call on Jehovah, everything that Jehovah has comes with it. Lift up your hands and sing to your God.